Welcome to another episode. My name is Dean Vassy. You can find me on X at #Kangas, Instagram #Kangaroos podcast. Tonight, we're back with the boys, with Jesse and Mark. Hello. Welcome, boys. And we are here to review our first real practice match against AFL opposition from last Saturday in very hot conditions. Jesse, a little bit of a disappointing start to our first series hit-out, you would have to say?
Oh, look, I think we were saying before we joined, I'm in the pessimist camp, but I'm not, all the way in there. There's a few people, as I said, who have written off the year already. So, that's pretty silly. But no, look, it was disappointing. I think the disappointing thing for me was that it was realistically their B team. They had some good players in there, and they had some good players in there who played in different positions, but they were still good players. Like, okay, no Tracker, but Oliver looked like he was back to his best. You've got Cozzy Pickett running around in the midfield, just kicking them from 55. It was still a very good team. But we went in there with a much stronger team in terms of best personnel we have available, and just didn't show up. Now, there were some positives. There were some absolute positives, and I think Mark. Not talking for Mark, but I'm pretty sure what most of the people who weren't too concerned about it are going to say is, obviously it was hot weather. And I do admit you could see that the players didn't necessarily. I don't want to say care, but you could see the players. It was hot, and they were more around trying some things. They didn't look that interested, which is a negative and a positive, I'd say, because you kind of want to hit the ground running. So, yeah, look, I'm probably in the disappointed camp. I wanted to see a bit more. And I think more than anything, I wanted to see some inside 50s that weren't bombing for the 6th year in a row.
Okay, well, we'll go to Mark now. Hang on, Mark. Just get this for you. So, yep, all right. No, that's your applause for the night, Mark. That might be it. What about yourself, mate? You obviously got different thoughts. Are you not too, judging from your ex comments the other day and posts and so forth, you aren't too concerned about what happened and transpired on Saturday?
No, I think you've got to balance it out with how excited we all got when we beat Collingwood convincingly this time a year ago, and then it turned out to be a completely false dawn. So I think it's possibly a good thing that they don't feel at this point in the pre-season that they have to go all in to get a win on the board to try and boost their confidence. I think Jesse's right. I think I wouldn't say disinterested. I just think the energy and intensity was relatively low compared to what you'd expect to see in an AFL round one game. I don't think either side's intensity was massively high. No. So I don't know. I just think some things were being tried. I think Jesse's got a good point about the ball going inside 50. I wouldn't want to see that in round one, just bombing it in like that. But I think a lot of things flow on from a lack of intensity. If your pressure rating's down, or your pressure ratings, I think a winning pressure rating tends to be around 200, and teams sustain that for most of games. It wouldn't have been within a bull's roar of that on Saturday, not even close. So it's hard to gauge the performance of defenders when the ball's coming in quickly and without much pressure on. It's hard to gauge a lot of things because it's just not the same as an AFL playing for 4 points game. So the scoreboard, in my opinion, sort of just became a bit of a nonsense. I was half bored watching it myself, to be honest, because it didn't feel like an AFL game. It didn't feel like we were at full intensity, so I wasn't getting much out of it as someone watching it. And I watched a few of the other AFL games, and I could only watch them 5 minutes. Like the same thing, I just got bored because they're not real games. It's just like we're going to watch training. That's what it feels like to me. So, look, I can understand supporters that have watched 5 years of hell and are looking for any positive they can find. Turn on the Matt Sim and no, we're back where we've always been. We're in for another disastrous year. I can understand how that can happen, but I don't think what we saw on the weekend is going to bear any resemblance to what happens against the Bulldogs in terms of our intensity. I just don't think he can replicate it in a match sim. I don't even know if he'll be able to replicate it this week in a practice match against West Coast. So I just think we're going to have to wait and see what happens in round one before we jump to too many conclusions. I'm not saying we're going to win round one. I'm just saying I don't think a match sim game is a good indication of true form.
No, fair enough. Jesse, we'll probably go to the concerns after this, but anything you really liked out of the performance? I mean, there was a few good individual performances.
Yeah, absolutely. Will Phillips, Tom Powell. More Will Phillips than Tom Powell, to be honest with you. I thought that I thought he was cleaner with the ball. I liked his tackle pressure. He had a few goal assists, which was good. He obviously kicked a goal himself as well. So look, I liked Phillips and Powell. LDU, hard to tell. I think he was just cruising, but even when he was cruising like that, yeah, he looked good. Sheasel again looked pretty decent, but again, he wasn't really going at full pelt, and you could absolutely tell with him. Second half, when they actually decided to play McKercher in proper positions, I think that was really, really nice. Caleb Daniel, and I'm going to say it, Jack Darling. That was a pleasant surprise. Now, he's not going to get that every week, but it was a decent defense. They had Petty and Lever. It's still a pretty good defense. And what did he do? He kicked 1 goal 1 goal 2, maybe?
He presented really well. He did. He created a really good target. So, he did more than enough as a forward, and he let Larky kick 4 on Petty/Lever. So I think you've got to take that as a win. So there was some definite highlights for mine. Shimbona's Pod has come in, Mark. He's before we get to your positives, he's just asked thoughts on how much Melbourne killed us on the spread. Their transition killed us over the weekend, didn't they, Mark?
Yeah, again, that just goes to lack of intensity. That Melbourne had an inexperienced side. Most of those kids were trying to prove themselves. They were running hard both ways. I thought Finn O'Sullivan did a good job of that for us, but not a lot of other players were great on the spread. I'm not too concerned about that. I just don't think you can take too much out of it. I mean, Jesse's right in terms of the players he's mentioned. And I'll give you an example of someone who wasn't even at 70% of the type of intensity he'll show in round one, and that's Tristan Terry. He's an absolute animal in terms of his pressure on the opposition and the way he uses his body in games. He was just cruising around on Saturday. That to me is a perfect example of someone who'll be at a completely different level. Charlie Coleman, we know how aggressive he is on the man and the ball in the air. He'll be a completely different player in defence round one. I would certainly hope Cam Zerha will be a very different player round one with his intensity, although sometimes he can cruise in actual games. So Curtis and a few of the others. I thought early on we practiced ways to keep the ball inside our forward 50. They were doing that quite well in the first half, and they dropped off that after that. And I think we dropped off generally after halftime. But I agree about Will Phillips. I thought he was good too. And I thought, again, he's an example of someone who can't afford to do anything other than go flat out at this point because he's trying to win a place. And I think Constanti was going hard in terms of that pressure full role early. Didn't kick. I don't think he kicked any goals, but he was doing a good job from a pressure perspective. So he'll probably get another crack this week, I think.
No, that's fair enough too. It's hard because we got Jai Simpkin coming back, and someone's going to have to get squeezed out, and you probably have to think it's going to be a small forward, and he's probably the obvious choice. I think the main concerns with me, Jesse, is the midfield mix. I feel like we've just got
too many.
We've got far too many. I mean, you're talking about Phillips, Powell, but you've got players playing high half forward, and players that are missing out, like Eddie Ford, who should be getting a game. Yeah. But he's getting squeezed out because we're going to play his midfielders in the half as a high half forwards. And we've got about 3 of them this week. It'll probably be Luke Parker, Harry Sheasel, Jai Simpkin. You just mentioned
wait till Wardlaw comes back.
Yeah. You got Phillips, Powell, LDU. And I felt like the midfield mix, every centre bounce, there was a different midfield mix. There was no continuity there. It's hard to build partnerships like that. I hope it's just a practice match thing, Jesse, and we don't do this like week in, week out in round 1 and 2, where we have 7 players having 10 centre-bounce attendances each.
Yeah, look, spot on. I have to agree. There wasn't a whole lot of continuity. Look, they're going to try. They're going to test stuff. There's, you're not going to be too concerned about
No, of
that
course.
from a mix perspective. It was interesting though in terms of how they played some of the players. I expected McKercher to get more midfield time than he did, and he didn't get any, realistically. It was more on the outside, and I know Ricky wrote a good article around that in terms of, the positioning, etc. But if you look at the percentages of CBAs, it's here we've got Tom Powell, 74%, Will Phillips, 71%, LDU, 64%, Parker 58, Sheasel 25, McKercher 6.5. Now, that's too much for Parker for mine. And he looked really scratchy. He actually looked the most worrying of the rookies, but I'm not buying much into that.
No. His last game was the grand final. He's not going to be too excited about a match sim.
I wouldn't have thought.
We're a kick 3 1/4. So.
Yeah, so he was 58%. Look, you think LDU would be getting more than 64. They played him out of the square a few times. I don't hate him up forward, to be honest, but Sheasel 25% really interested me because the week before he played, I don't think he got to go forward in the Intra-Cup. He pretty much played dedicated mid. So not enough Sheasel in the guts for mine, 25%. Probably a little bit too much Powell and Phillips. So, and you are 100% right. We're going to add Simpkin into that mix. Now, if you use it as an example, Melbourne actually had more players running through the midfield. Trent Rivers, Oliver, Pickett, Langford, Laurie, Sparrow, Chandler. So they had more players run through. And most other teams for the weekend, if you go through it, are either on par with us or had more than us. So I don't know if it was necessarily too many players rotating through there or too many of the same type of player rotating through there. The reason I've been bullish on getting McKercher midfield minutes is because look at Cozzy Pickett in the middle. He was absolutely tearing it apart. We need something else in that mix. But yeah, look, it's going to be another chance this week against West Coast. We'll get a different look at it again. But yeah, look, I'd like to see a little bit, a bit of a different mix because it didn't look right on the day. But again, they weren't all playing at 100%.
What are your thoughts on it, Mark? Like Jesse mentioned that you would like to see Luke Parker spend a little bit less time in there. I mean, it could be a match. It's going to be interesting this week when they come against West Coast, how they go with that mix. I mean, Sheasel only 25%. Whether they're conserving him for the real stuff, I mean, we definitely want to see him more in the midfield. I think it's almost got to be a 50-50 split. But I guess someone's going to have to get squeezed out if we're going to play 7 midfielders and about 3 of them as high half forwards because Colin McKercher is good enough to go through there as well. And he only got, 5%, did you say, Jesse?
Yeah, something about that. Yeah, or 10% or something. It was quite low.
Yeah,
I don't think McKercher's going to play through the middle very much this year. I think he's going to be more wing. But that's hard because Finn O'Sullivan and Scott are there. So, it's getting more and more becoming more and more of a problem. I assume they'll run Scott, McKercher, and Finn O'Sullivan, rotate them through the wings. And McKercher will spend a bit of time forward, but the forward line's crowded, as you said, with other midfielders as well. So, Eddie Ford can't get a look in. I don't know how they're going to squeeze Dersner into that side. He's playing half forward mid as well. So, it begs the question whether they're, from a list management perspective, whether they've overdone it and they haven't picked enough players for needs. Now we've got ourselves in a bit of a problem. I think that's a fair argument people could make for sure. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think that for the midfield mix from the weekend will be what we'll see this week. I think whatever happens this week is what's going to happen round 1. They can't afford to muck around any longer. I think they gave Phillips and Powell as much time in the middle as they could, especially Phillips, to give himself every chance to put forward his case. And he did a good job of it. But, I would expect Sheasel, LDU, and probably Powell to be the 3 main mids this week.
Yeah. A couple of people have come in now. I think go back. Ian said, I think our midfield depth will become our point of difference. Kids need time to become more competent in different positions. Well, they're going to have to adjust to different positions, like Colby McKercher. Rowan says it's a match sim. We know what LDU Sheasel can do. And Pat has come in. I wouldn't read anything into the minutes from the sim. We said, it's just a good point of argument. I'm not worried about the minutes. It's more just the players that are playing at the moment. And it's just like there's some players that are missing out. They are getting squeezed out because I just feel like it's an imbalance in the team. So
did you guys feel like the intra-club game had more intensity to it than the game on the weekend?
Yeah.
I thought last quarter we pretty much shut up shop. We tried to. I'll get your guys' opinion. I was going to ask this later, but someone like Taylor Gates still doesn't look physically ready, Jesse, I didn't think. Got muscled off the ball. Like, it shows he's come a long way in 12 months. There's no doubt about that. But he's just shown that he's still about, probably another 6 to 12 months away from being able to use that body because he got pushed off the ball far too easily in a lot of ruck contests, didn't he?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. He did some things he took a little while to get used to it, and he did some things, but he was getting schooled by another rookie ruck for most of it. My biggest concern is, and again, I'm not going to play too much into it, but he had limited game time, and even in that fourth quarter, just after it came on, there was, I reckon, half a dozen moments where the ball spilled out from the contest, and he just stood there and didn't run after it or try and impact the contest. So I'm wondering if that's still a positioning thing or if it's an intensity thing. But I know that concerned a few people. There was a few comments about that. I wouldn't read too much into it. But
it just needs time.
Yeah, I think it's more around positioning and just overcooking himself, being not in position and then having to get into position. So, look here, he didn't look 100%. There was definitely some things that were good, and there was definitely some things. I think Mark's spot on. This week, you can't be stuffing around. Whoever the mix is this week is what the mix is going to be. But you are right. Now we're going to add Jai Simpkin into the mix. That's another one who is coming off great form in the Indigenous game as a dedicated full-time midfielder. So, and we know his best position is dedicated full-time midfielder. What if he comes back and he's in ripping form? I mean, it's a good problem to have, but
he looks ripped.
Yeah,
at the moment, and he looks really good in that Indigenous All-Stars.
Yeah, as a midfielder, and that's the thing. If that's it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, I don't want to be overplaying mids, even though they're probably they're better players by skill. Because I actually liked the smaller forward line in terms of I liked having Larky and Darling, and then a good spread of smalls. I think our forward line pressure was actually pretty good. That's not where they got the ball out of. They got the ball from the middle too easily and along the wings too easy. But the actual being able to keep the ball inside 50 for at least the first half, first three quarters, I actually thought we were pretty good.
Well, you can't defend if you kick to the opposition as well. A lot of times, if the opposition intercepts a kick from someone like a Bailey Scott, then it's easy to transition. You can't defend that. It's too hard. Whereas if you at least bring it to ground, there's enough there to suggest that they can keep the ball or at least put decent pressure where they could, create a turnover. So that was at least a positive sign. Mark, let's talk about the back line. And we had our full-strength talls. How did you see the combination working? Low, core, Comben, we had McDonald, Caleb Daniel, Luke McDonald, Darcy Tucker, probably the back seven mainly.
Archer.
Archer as well. Sorry about that. Can't forget him. So you got 8. Darcy Tucker pushed up the field a bit too. How did you see that combination working?
You can't say it was any better than okay. I thought Caleb Daniel looked great. His distribution of the ball is going to be really important for us. I think the talls, were reasonable. They didn't do a great job. I know there's been massive criticism on X about the defenders, but when there's no pressure coming from up the field, I mean, if that happens, any defence will get torn to shreds. I'm not reading much into it. I think we'll have to wait and see how they perform. Because if that's true, then based on what the Bulldogs have got to offer from a forward line, they'll kick 200 points against us. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think they'll be fine, those three guys. I think I mean, Logue's underdone. He's obviously coming back from injury, so he needs these hit outs. I think Comben he'll be absolutely fine. And Core was very good for us last year. I see no reason he won't be again. I think Core's more likely to be the lockdown player, and Logan Comben will interchange with, do a fair bit of intercepting as well. I thought Luke McDonald was okay, actually. I didn't think he was too bad. Archer's going to be rock solid for us. Again, even his intensity is at a different level than it will be once the game starts. It's like his old man normally. So, I find it very hard to make too many judgments. I found it easier watching the intra-club game because they were more competitive against each other than they were against what was the second-rate Melbourne side. If that was an AFL game and Melbourne put that side on the park, you'd expect us to win easily, to be fair. So, yeah, I find it difficult. I felt like it was a training run with that sort of intensity. I'm not concerned about that back line as much as a lot of other people are. I think it's too early to judge them.
No, I agree. I think the talls will generally be fine. I think you're right with Core. He probably takes the number one forward. Griffin Logue, he certainly showed signs. Aiden Core still coming back from off-season surgery as well. So he probably, it's good for him to get a run. It's about getting reps and run into your legs. How did you see the mix, Jesse? Do we think we need another rebounding defender outside of Caleb Daniel? It seemed like everything just went through him, like first, second link plays, and he would have got 35 touches. But I mean, there might be periods where other clubs are able to defend that, and we don't have anyone else back there that can do it at the moment.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was thinking for the whole time. Every time I saw Daniel get the ball, or when he didn't have the ball, even more so, when they couldn't get it to him. Round one, or if you're any team this year, you're just going to tag Caleb Daniel because there was not another rebounder with skill, with any semblance of skill coming out of that back line. I absolutely mean that. You almost need a Sheasel or a McKercher back there as another distributor. You don't want to put them there, but I think we need another good distributor coming off that half back line. I agree with you in terms of I'm not concerned about the talls. I'm not concerned about Logue, Charlie, or Core at all. I think they all did some good things, and I don't think they were playing at the intensity. So I'm not worried about the talls. Geez, I'm worried about the smalls. Archer did some things. He got beaten a few times, go away for free ticks. I'm not reading much into that because he really went leaps and bounds last year. I'm not. Yeah, I don't see a world in which Luke McDonald can play round one if we're taking ourselves seriously as a football club. And I say that, I don't take that lightly, but he was embarrassing, I thought. And the reason I say that, and I know that's pretty damning, but I actually think he tried. I actually think that he tried. He gave away so many free kicks. I'd love to see the stats. I reckon he gave away 6, and I reckon 4 of them led to goals. It just, for someone who apparently is in really, really good fitness, and he's given up the captaincy, I was hoping it would, turn back the clock a little bit, but I don't know what he'd be turning the clock back at all, because I mean he hasn't really been a good player at all during his career. So, other than maybe his first year. Look,
he hasn't won a BNF, Jesse.
Yeah, but I could have won the BNF that year.
That was the COVID year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the COVID year, and I mean he won it by getting 30 disposals each game on 10-meter chips. He wasn't in the top 40 players that year in meters gained as a rebounding backman. So I think that says it all. I was really concerned about his output because he was crashing in, but his disposal would have been poor, and he just kept giving away free kicks. He gave away like 50 at one point. Like it just, I just saw the comment come up, Brian Goda, 100%. Obviously Goda being there would be fantastic. Hardiman's the one for me. If we're going to, I don't see why we would not be playing Hardiman over McDonald or to a lesser degree of Tucker. Because, and someone wrote this on X, I don't see how we can play Archer, McDonald, and Tucker all in the same back line.
Well, I think that's fair. Yeah.
With 3 talls. It means that one of them is So you're playing 3 of them at times when Daniel's getting a rest. Geez, that's a huge downgrade in skills.
I think they need Hardiman's speed there.
I would have taken Fisher over the over them.
He's injured.
He's injured at the moment.
Yeah, I know, but there's half a dozen players I would have taken. It just did not work for me. Those players, the smalls really worried me. The talls, I've got no concerns with, but I can't see how we can play Luke McDonald, Tucker, and Archer in the same back line. It doesn't work for me because I don't think they're good enough defenders, and I don't think they're good enough with foot by foot. So, yeah, I think there's a bit of work that needs to be done there. That was my biggest concern for the day, actually, was our small defenders, because we're lucky Waitman's injured round 1 and the Dogs don't really have another genuine small forward. But if they did, they'd probably tear us apart.
Well, that's they had a rookie kick 3 or 4 goals, didn't they?
He'll kick 10 on us.
No, I'm talking about Melbourne, the player on the weekend. Was it Sharp?
He was pick 60 over from Brisbane. Yeah, they gave him away for peanuts, and I thought he looked pretty good at Brisbane. But yeah, he was running around looking like Cyril Rioli or something. And to be fair, Archer got a bit of time on him, and he's not Archer's go. He's a quicker player. Archer's more of a Bailey Fritsch type, for example, in terms of maybe that smaller medium player.
The mid-sized forward, like Curtis Taylor or something.
Spot on.
Those types of players.
So yeah, that's my worry of the weekend. Forget about the forward entries. It's the back line. Small defenders still. It's not right for me.
To be honest with you, Jesse, I tend to agree with you. I think most people sort of know that I want to move past Darcy Tucker because we want to take the next step forward. And I think Riley Hardiman is a good player that could, it reminds me a little bit of a Grant Birchall at this stage. Like, I know it's very early, got a good left foot, can intercept, good on the ground. So there's plenty of upside there. But, I feel like they're going to go the veterans early. But that seems to be the way. For some reason, I think Darcy Tucker, he's immune to getting dropped. So, there was periods last year, Darcy Tucker in the first half of the year was getting 8 possessions a game and they kept playing him. So, yeah.
It's a bit bizarre. I just don't know what the logic of it is. I'm failing to see what the logic of it is because they're not going to win us games. I don't know what they're thinking that playing McDonald Tucker are going to save us 5 goals a game as opposed to playing a Hardiman or a Bergman, for heaven's sake. I don't really care. You name them, I'm happy to try them because I don't think they'd give up any more than McDonald Tucker would from a defensive perspective.
Mark, I know you were, like when we did the version 1 teams, you were pretty keen to have Fisher and Caleb Daniel in that same back line. I sort of said, does that make it a bit small? He said, no, because we've got those 3 talls plus Archer can play almost as an intercept as well. So you're not too worried about it. Is that something you want to go with?
Yeah, I want them to. My issue with McDonald is it's just it makes our backline too slow as much as anything else.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
So I prefer Gota if he was fit. I'd have him there as my first choice, and Hardiman's my second choice. Bergman's almost third at this stage. So I'd put all 3 of those guys ahead of both McDonald and your favourite. Tucker tries hard and he's a big body.
Yeah, he does.
But I don't know. I think we've got enough bigger bodies down there. I think the 3 talls plus Archer are all strong guys. I think we need speed and skill in those other 2 positions. One of them's Daniel, and the other one has to be like a Hardman or a Gota. So I think you're right, though. I think they'll just play McDonald certainly this week. If he has a shocker this week, then he might be in trouble.
The scary thing is, though, our backline was the oldest position on our ground. Think about it. Charlie Common's not a kid anymore. You've got Core and Logue. Core's on the twilight of his career.
He's 31, I think.
And Logue's getting up there, but he's not old, but he's getting up there. Then you've got Luke McDonald rolling around, 30-odd. Then you've got Tucker. I don't know how old Tucker is. But
29.
Yeah, late 20s. And then you have Caleb Daniel.
28.
Apologies for my lack of research, but who played well in the reserves? in the VFL?
I heard Hardiman did okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pat, can you come in here? Because you said Hardiman needs more VFL, so maybe he watched a bit of a VFL. I didn't see any of the VFL.
We won by a point, I think.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I did hear that, but that's all I heard.
I heard that Big Maley, Finbar just dominated.
Yeah, he played. Yeah, apparently he was really good.
In the ruck or forward?
Both.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
I hope they take him over to Perth. I don't think it's any good bringing him on for half a bloody quarter in the fourth quarter or whatever.
When there's no when, imagine
Nothing
how
quite.
stitched up you feel being the blokes who came on halfway through the last quarter when everyone else was just giving up.
Absolutely
Pointless.
pointless.
And I actually think he looked decent the couple ruck contests he had in terms of he's going to actually be able to compete in the ruck, and he's the only forward who, if you kick it on his head, he's going to bring it to ground. The others are lead forwards.
Let Larky play half a game this week. He doesn't need a full game.
No, rest him.
They played 3 quarters.
I'd play Lucky just for a half this week, or even give him a complete rest, even from travelling to Perth, and take Finbar over there and see what he can do. Like, can we finally just find out if the bloke can play at that level? At least give him a taste of what it's like, so he knows what he needs to work on. I don't know why they won't give him more of a run.
I don't know why they won't give a lot of the kids a run. There seems to be an aversion to it, like, we need to win, or otherwise we're in a lot of trouble.
The other one, this is just jumping around a little bit, sorry, but Hansen Jr. didn't do a lot on the weekend. I'm not sure if he's a lock for round one now.
It's a different type of player to Constanti. We'll go to the forwards. We already talked about the mids. There's just too many at the moment. We don't know what that mix is going to be. We'll probably get more of an idea this weekend. And we want to see more of Sheasel in there. I don't know if that'll happen, but we'll go to the small forwards, because that seems to be the position at the moment. Hansen Jr. was quiet. But do you go a more offensive player, or do you go the more defensive player, Costanti? What do you think, Jesse? Because I think one of them is going to miss out, only because Simpkin does have to come back in, and maybe even a Fisher. I'm not too sure.
I've got Constanti. My concern still is valid with Robert Hansen Jr. I reckon he got pushed off the ball by blokes who he shouldn't be getting pushed off the ball with, quite small guys. We're not talking about Max Gawn. We're talking about some small rookies who are just pushing him off the ball like he's a...
Yeah, he's small. He's very small.
Yeah. He gets pushed off it too easy, and then he's out of the contest. When he's got the ball and he's attacking, that's fine. But he's got to find the ball and then he's got to attack with it. And the problem is that he wasn't adding enough pressure for mine. He did a couple good things, but I've got Constanti because you saw when he laid pressure, he laid some crunching tackles. You're not getting past him. He's pretty thick for a small forward. So he, I liked him. I actually liked him. He didn't blow me away, but he did his job.
Yeah. Mark, I know you're in love with Robert Hansen Jr. Have been for about the last 6 months, but what do you think? Do you want to sort of give him a trial early and take the punt that, all right, we're going to kick a score, or we've got to work on team defense first and foremost, and let's get the offensive player in there? Or would you rather now go the other way, like Jesse, and maybe go Costanti?
Yeah, I'm a bit 50-50. I mean, I think Robert Hansen Jr., I think he'll play this week against West Coast, but I think his defensive pressure has to go up 2 or 3 notches for him to play round one, or Constanti will go past him. So I think if they had their choice, they'd have Robert Hansen Jr. because of the X factor and his speed and his ability to probably kick 2 goals and give away a couple. But he's going to have to do the team defence stuff better than he did on the weekend, or I think Constanti will play, because you know what you're going to get, and it's much more low risk. And they just, we can't have the ball being walked out of our defence. It's just too important. So, I think it's very 50-50 on that at the moment. Robert Hansen Jr. in terms of offence, absolutely. But if he doesn't bring the other side to it, I don't think he'll get the first run. He'll play plenty of games this year, but they'll make him do the right thing at VFL level before they'll put him up to AFL if he's not doing it this week, I think. We'll have to see.
Well, I heard, in the off-season that he was working very hard on his defensive craft, but, I didn't see enough of it to suggest that much has changed from that, because I did quiz you boys that he only laid one inside 50 tackle last year in 7 games. So I didn't see him lay one inside 50 on the weekend. So unless I missed one, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that forward mix goes. Jesse, was it a little bit of the forward 50 entries? They look pretty poor, or was it a combination of just poor forward structure? I guess. Every time we kicked to the advantage, Jack Darling, he looked dangerous, like we talked about before. But I guess it's a combination of both, maybe.
Oh, yeah, spot on. I thought the forward entries were almost backwards on last year in terms of when we went in there aggressively, we looked good. But there was just too many players who kick inside. There was just too many players who kicked the ball without looking. Like I don't know if it was because it was hot. There's not really an excuse.
30k wins is not good for forward.
Yeah, the wind absolutely. But I mean, the wind didn't seem to impact Melbourne as much, albeit they played a lot more of a chipping game in terms of a lot of small kicks and then running to get up the ground. Well, we went handball heavy and long bombs. You know what I actually think the biggest concern, the biggest problem was? It looked a lot like the game style we tried at the start of the last year in terms of that North ball, where we went really handball heavy and tried to run it. And it looked like we tried to run the ball out, and unless it was Caleb Daniel, you were told you have to handball it because you can't kick. And when they panicked because they'd get themselves into trouble, they'd just bomb it and it would go straight to a defender. So it looks to me that Clarko is hell-bent on making us into this aggressive running team. And we gave it up halfway through the year last year and went to a more contested game style, and it made us more competitive. They seem to be trying this offensive type again. I hope they don't persist with it for too long, because there's no way that we have nearly enough skill or confidence to be playing a game style that is that run and gun. And we're not quick enough. Like Mark said before, the back line's slower than a slug. And we're trying to play a run and gun style. It's just it looked bizarre to mine, and the forward entries just were an impact. Were just because we were getting ourselves into pressure. Unless you were Caleb Daniel or Harry Sheasel, everyone else was just bombing the ball. Or even Will Phillips was doing a few good kicks inside 50, but everyone else is bomb, just bombing away, just snaps over the head, weird things. Yeah, it was the inside 50s were bizarre at times. But look, it was windy.
And it was hot too, maybe.
And it was hot. Yeah,
dehydration as well. So.
And the fact that it's a practice, and they probably didn't care too much. But
second year.
Yeah, I think the only thing that was weird is Lee Adams, in his little press conference at the end, said the fundamentals need some work. Jeff, what do you mean the fundamentals need work? How far along are we? That worried me a little bit, because that makes it sound like, we were taking it seriously. We were just crap.
No. I think the most bizarre comment came from Nick Larkey, Mark, yesterday, or was it the day before, straight after the game. He said, Cameron Zurhaar didn't get his lick of the ice cream, but his defensive pressure was really good. I didn't see him do anything defensively, Mark. Did I miss something there?
No, I didn't know. I
don't know where he got that from.
Yeah, I think just that was maybe a bit of deflection, or he's being sarcastic about his mate. I don't know. No, I mean, no, hardly, apart from Larky, no one got a lick of the ice cream. The ball was being run out of our forward line. But anyway, Adams, look, at the end of the day, if they were really, really concerned, it would have been Clark. Clarkson started watching the game without headphones. There's no... I just think it was a training run, and they probably weren't happy with the training run. They probably thought there were too many mistakes being made. They were the forward entries were poor, hot, windy, low intensity. I struggle with to work what to take out of it either side. So I don't know. I'll be interested. What happens if we come out and we beat West Coast by 110 points? Is that what you want to take into round one? Because I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't take that seriously either.
It was hard to get a judge out of West Coast from their game, because Richmond looked deplorable. So
that's what I mean. I wouldn't take much out of this week either. Well, we might beat them by 10 goals. That won't guarantee anything for the game against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think it would mean more. It would mean more if we lost by 10 goals than if we won by 10 goals.
Yeah, I think they'll run with the positional. Whatever they're planning to do round one will be a lot closer this week. But the other thing is coaches aren't keen to give away too much before round one. So they don't go
true.
all in now. They hold a bit back. They don't want to give Bulldogs the exact recipe of what we're planning to do when we run out in the first quarter. So I think positionally we'll probably be pretty much set. But in terms of our plays, forward entries, everything else, they're probably not going to show it that much. I'll be interested watching the game definitely this weekend to see what sort of difference there is between last week to this week on the intensity side. But yeah, I still think they'll be holding a bit back this week as well, both sides.
No, I think they definitely will. Pat's come in and said he's in a taxi driving through the south of India at the moment. So, it's a pretty good dedication to listen to this while you're going through that. But, full credit to him for doing that. There's some players I wouldn't mind getting your opinion on, boys, that got a game that I don't think will probably be there by round one. I was a bit surprised they got picked. Jesse, I'll go with this one. Toby Pink. I thought they might have gone with Matt Whitlock instead, the younger kid. Toby Pink is, I'm not too sure, playing him back in the back line after trialing him as a forward last year. Surely we'll move past this.
Did Whitlock play the VFL game?
Yeah, he did. Yes.
Oh, I think he did, yes.
Yep. Ford didn't. Dersma didn't. And there was one other noticeable who didn't in the VFL from what I remember. But the rest of them did. And apparently Whitlock and the Dawsons looked good.
Yeah. So, Dawson boys. But, getting back to Toby Pink.
Oh, you are 100% right.
Bizarre selection? Or?
Oh, absolutely bizarre selection. It was just weird. It just seems like a wasted opportunity to give a few, it's not like Melbourne were playing power forwards. They were playing Jefferson, who's in his second or third year, Van Ruin. So Whitlock could have played on Jefferson.
I would have tried him on Van Ruin.
Yeah,
I would have just
tried him. Give him a real crack at it all. It's bizarre for mine. I don't know. I don't know what to say. If Toby Pink's in the side at any stage this year, and we haven't had bulk injuries, then the administration should be all sacked on the spot. It would just be the weirdest move in the world when you've got two Dawsons, especially the young Dawson and Whitlock. You've got two young defenders there, and you're not giving games to them.
Yeah, Callum Dawson's the odd one because he's never played a bad game, and for some reason, fair enough, you got three ahead of him.
Well, the only bad ones he's played is when he's been the only defender.
Yeah, and even then he hasn't been too bad. So, for some reason, he doesn't. Yeah, it seems like that. Dylan Stevens, Mark, probably another player I was a bit surprised because we've got 1,000 players that can go through the wing. We had about 4 or 5 at least, and they decided to give him a run in the last quarter. I don't think he's going to be in the mix for round one.
No chance. No, not with Finn O'Sullivan, Scott, and McKercher there. I rate him as a player. I just think he's now in the queue. He's going to need injuries or some cracking games at VFL level to get in. I mean, the criticism from the supporter base has been around his intensity. I think he's starting to improve that, but I certainly can't see him playing this week.
No.
Same Goad, obviously.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that to Jesse. Do you think Taylor Goad, there's obviously potential there, and it looks like Jack Darling will be the second ruckman going in for 10-15%.
Well, Larky rucked a couple times.
Yeah, he did a couple. I'll say it'd be Darling because just for the sake of play. But Taylor Goad, you think, he's still got a ways to go. I mentioned him before, but he's still got a ways to go with his body.
Yeah, might get a game towards the end of the year. I can't see.
Finbar will play ahead of him.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd think so.
Yeah. Do you think, Mark? Do you think Finbar is close at the moment? Well, I think he could almost play with Darling and Nick Larkey, but the problem is that's 3 tall forwards.
I'll be annoyed.
Where do the 20 midfielders go?
Yeah, I'll be annoyed if they don't take him to Perth to give him at least a half and see what happens. But, playing him for half a quarter is just an absolute waste of time. I'm glad to hear that he dominated in the VFL game. He came third in our BNF last year. The guy hasn't done much wrong, and he's super talented. I just think we should see him at that level and see how he goes. What's the harm in watching him? They don't have to pick him for round one if he doesn't perform. But what happens if they play him this week and he kicks 5 goals and a half? The only knock has been his kicking for goals being a problem, and that certainly has to get rectified. But I'd like to see whether he can take the grabs at that level if he's doing it, because I'd rather have him marking the ball than an intercept defender. But you're right, it would be a squeeze, but it would certainly help having him as the chop out second ruck. But so it might be hard with the amount of medium forwards and all the midfield mids we've got running through that forward line. Makes it more difficult. And Curtis and Zerha do play tall.
No, they do. So that only adds to the squeeze that we've got. Now, a player that played well, you mentioned before, Jesse, was Will Phillips, but there's a lot of competition. Do you think he'll play round one? Do you think he's almost a lock?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
He has to be a lock round one because
what's his role? Do you think he's a run with player, or do you think
I think he's more than that. Yeah, I think that he's
certainly not running with Bond.
No, we're not doing that again. Look, he plays a defensive mid, so he'll actually lay tackles, which is a positive. He'll apply pressure and he'll lay tackles. So he is a defensive mid, but he shouldn't be a run with player. He should be allowed to run free because I thought he had some good synergy with Sheasel when Sheasel was in there. I liked the two of them in terms of their synergy with one another. I quite liked that. So I have him in the team. Yes, I know that there's a lot of midfielders. 100% agree. But at the same time, you've got to play the people who are playing,
who
the best.
in form.
And I'd say at this point in time, he's one of them.
No, that's fair enough. One more player, and this is a player that I probably got the biggest issue with, Mark, and I've mentioned him already before, but Eddie Ford, he's getting squeezed out. I think he's a best 23 player, best 22 player. For him not to be getting the game, it's almost a little bit criminal, Mark.
Yeah, I was thinking about this today. I don't even know why, but it came into my head today, Eddie Ford, and I thought there must be something I don't know, which is the coaches are unhappy with his defensive efforts, I'm guessing, because offensively, I've never seen him play badly. So the only criticism they could possibly have with him is that he's not working hard enough defensively when he's in that forward line. And they're going to force him to get those things right before they play him, and it's the same reason they only gave him a 1-year deal, because he's too talented. Too talented to only be on a 1-year deal. He's too talented for the VFL. I agree he's a top 23 player, so that we have to assume there's something they're getting him to work on. The fact he didn't play in the VFL, though, could be that he's got a bit of he's sore or there's a bit of an issue there. But, I'd like to see him in the side. But, again, Dersma's going to be fighting for that, to get in that area as well. So it's not easy. But you'll have to force your way in. But he will force his way in at some point. He's too good a player.
Did you hear anything about Dersma and Ford being injured yesterday, Jesse? Because I didn't hear a thing.
Not
yesterday, the day.
They didn't play in the VFL, neither of them.
Yeah, I don't know what the injury is or why they didn't play. The club hasn't
spelled
that or
anything. They haven't said anything, which is a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah, because I thought if they weren't playing seniors, they'd be playing reserves because they were in the B team the week before. So I'm not too sure what's happened there. Do you think Zane Dersma is a chance for round one, or do you think he misses out?
Yeah, I think both him and Ford miss out.
I think Dersma's a month away. I think there'll be a slow build up for him.
Yeah, look, he looked okay in the midfield, but geez, how many more midfielders can we have, Mark?
I don't. Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, nothing against him. I think he's going to be absolute gun player, Dersma. But if they're honest now, you'd have to go, well, maybe taking the Wizard would have made more sense to our structure than another guy who's going to play tall half forward mid, no matter how good he is. It's we've got so many of those type of players. So that said, he's going to be a gun player. It's just, I just don't. It doesn't feel like our list works for us in terms of we've got a few holes, and that's one of them, a small forward. So that frustrates me a little bit that they made that decision. But apart from that, it is what it is. They'll have to force their way in, and guys are going to have to play multiple positions, and he's another one. He'll go forward, wing, midfield. And there's always injuries, so opportunities keep arising, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. There's going to be injuries and suspensions and so forth. So, any of these players at forward does might get the opportunity. They kind of really have to take it, especially Eddie Ford, who's out of contract at the end of the year, only got a 1-year deal, like you sort of mentioned before. So, a little bit of pressure on him, I guess. Going forward to this, I think it's Saturday night, boys.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock or something like that. What do you want to see this week, Jesse?
Oh, no bombing inside 50. No, look, I'm hoping that I don't know what the weather's like, but I'm hoping the weather is pretty good because it would be good to actually get a proper hit out in normal conditions. I want to see some more intensity, and I want to see a little bit of what game style we're going to go into round one with. So, look, I'm not asking for a lot. I'm just asking for the boys to, give a little bit more intensity this week because it's only 1 week after that, isn't it? Until the season starts. We have 2 weeks, but
there's opening round,
So you're only going to get realistically another, match sim potentially in before the start of play. So this is a good opportunity against a team who we should be ahead of now, who will be playing most of their best players, and they'll have a lot of players who want to spot. So I think the intensity should be pretty good, and I'm expecting us to apply a good level of intensity because there'll still be people up for, there will still be spots up for grabs. So, look, positives, all positives this week.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably about 5 or 6 spots that are 50-50 at the moment that the players are fighting for. What about yourself, Mark? Are you similar there with Jesse or something else possibly?
I'm not. I don't expect the intensity to be amazing this week. I'm hoping the skill level's good. I don't. They can't afford their confidence to be going down in terms of disposal and especially by foot. So I'd like to see the skill level very good this week. And again, entries into the forward 50. Those sorts of things are going to be important. I'm not as confident as Jesse. The intensity will be very high this week. I'm not too bothered about the scoreboard, but I'd certainly want to see the skill level be much, much better. And it should be. We would hope the conditions will be a lot better this week.
Well, I'm not too sure. They've had a lot of hot weather up their way over the last couple of months. They've been prone to the bushfires as well. So, hopefully, it's not too hot like it was last Saturday. We'll see how we go. Any final thoughts, Jesse, before I let you go?
No, not for me. Look, I'm looking at the weather now. It's meant to be what time of the day is it going to be over there?
It's in the evening, but I don't know if that's Melbourne time or
it'll be 4 o'clock their time.
It's right at the peak of the heat.
28-ish.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, it's better than 36. I'd be expecting them to, show something at that temperature. So, no, look, nothing else to add for mine. I'm keen to see how we go in this game. I think we should learn a lot more about how we're going to line up, starting the year. Look, it's going to be an interesting one.
No, it definitely will be. Mark, any final thoughts?
Keep the faith. Keep the faith. I'm still confident when we start the season we'll be a vastly improved team from last year.
Yeah, well, we certainly hope so. So, we've got no choice but to keep the faith. What's the point of doing the opposite? It doesn't get you anywhere, so you might as well. Like, people are panicking and all that. Don't panic. There's no point panicking. It solves nothing. There's plenty of other times in your life where you panic when go to the toilet and you pull your zip up too quick or something like that. But don't panic over something like a preseason game or anything like that. There's no need for that. Jesse, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'll get your thoughts next Monday if you're free.
Thank you. Yep, absolutely.
Sounds good. Mark, always a pleasure with you, mate. Thanks so much for coming on, and I will get your thoughts next week as well.
Fantastic, mate. Look forward to it.
And hang on. Well done, boys. Thanks to everyone as well for tuning in as well. I'll be back this week again. I'll probably do another podcast probably Wednesday or Thursday, another live show. So don't forget to like, subscribe, give me a follow, and do all that fun stuff to help the show. Bye for now, and go Roos. Well, thanks, boys. Thanks for that. Mark always leaves.
He gets his applause and he's off.
Yeah.